Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and I thought before it's another long time before I do one, I'm going to do a double review of some Ready for the Dark episodes. And the ones I'm going to talk about are two who are Tucker's first and third story, because I didn't really care about the second tale he narrated. So in case you don't know, Tucker is the brother of Gary, and this is another one of those plots then that to tell the story of the Midnight Society members. So we have, in this one, it turns out that Gary was told by his parents that he couldn't be part of the Midnight Society anymore unless he brought his brother Tucker along with him. So we have Tucker's initiation episode, and naturally he automatically gets in, although the other characters like Frank and Kiki aren't too keen on him being part of the group because, annoying younger sibling. And then, like I said, I like his third episode. I didn't like his second episode, which was the Tale of the Phone Police. I thought that was a little too silly for my taste. So I'm going to talk about his first episode, his initiation story, which was first, and then I'll talk about his third story. So his third one was the tale of the Midnight Ride, and it is a retelling of the whole Sleepy Hollow Headless Horseman tale. And so naturally, and of course, it's a very famous ghost story written by Washington Irving, and they were bound to do it. And it's short enough you could easily tell the story in 30 minutes. I mean, they were able to make the Disney made an animated version for little kids. So this is the junior high version and a contemporary story. So it's set in a high school. We have our main character, Ian. He's the new kid in Sleepy Hollow, and the first person he meets is Katie, and he immediately likes her. Offers to help her set up a school dance. She asks him how he likes the town and all that. They kind of get to know each other. Then they bump into her ex-boyfriend, Brad, who, doesn't realize has not gotten the message that they're not dating anymore. In fact, he kind of gets a little huffy later on when he's all like, I say when we don't go out. And he's the one that was the least he is the one who was most accurate to his character, his counterpart in the original story, I think. So it follows the plot pretty well, just more modern contemporary take to the story. So we have, it's this high school dance. There's a high school dance that they're putting on. Katie and Ian end up wearing the same costume, which is a colonial style costume. And although she doesn't wear a colonial dress like the women would wear, but she actually wears like trousers and the 3-corner hat and a jacket and everything. It's cute. It's cute that they both dress the same. So then, and when Ian gets there, while Ian's there, he catches Brad trying to talk to Katie, and she's trying to push him away and tell him, no, we're not together anymore, we broke up. And Ian wants to defend her honor, and he tells Brad to back off, but Brad does not like that, being told to back off. He's that pissed off. But ironically, instead of fisticuffs and him punching Ian and beating the crap out of him, he reminds me of the infamous ghost story that is made famous by their town. He reminds him of the Headless Horseman story. And he says there is a tradition in their town that everybody is initiated via going to get the pumpkin head and cross this bridge of souls before the Headless Horseman gets them. And of course, Katie says this is not a tradition, it's stupid, and she thinks it's silly, doesn't want Ian to do it. But Ian, is like fed up with Brad and is like, you know what, let's just get this over with. I don't even know if I believe all this crap anyway. So he goes along with it. And Brett, he hears all these creepy sounds like laughing, maniacal laughing, and little creepy, all these just eerie little sounds. And he assumes that it's Brad, and rightfully so, because once he claims the pumpkin, which is this cheap prop pumpkin you could get at Michael's or something with a fake candle, and Brad sneaks up on him and does scare him, and ends up making fun of Ian because he panics and loses his mind for a moment. And Katie ends up staying loyal to him, helps him out, because she thinks she's tired of Brad's bullshit. And they walk home together, and it's awkward and cute. He gives her his jacket, and before they get back to town, they end up bumping into this mysterious man on horseback who's very pale and looks very dressed up very much like more retro, like very old-fashioned, and he is talking about how he's looking for the Bridge of Souls and he's lost his way. So Ian is a little weird. Ian and Katie decide to be polite and tell him which way is the Bridge of Souls, and he's very appreciative of this. And of course, he disappears very quickly. They look and he's gone instantly. So Katie and Ian go home. They flirt a little bit. They enjoy talk how they enjoyed each other's company. And then, so he leaves, has to go back to school to get his bike. But then, of course, when he's there, he realized, oh, I left my coat with her, my jacket with her, so I gotta go back to see her. So he's trying to get his bike, and then he starts hearing some weird sounds. Again, and assumes it's Brad, tries to ignore them, thinks, is... And Katie surprises him by showing up at the school and realize that he left his jacket with her. And he starts hearing, he hears clip-clocking, like horse noise and horse hooves. And he even sees a shadow on the building of the school. And he's trying to say to Brad, enough already. Your girlfriend doesn't want you back. She doesn't want you anymore. You gotta stop this. Give up already. Even ask Katie if Brad rides, and she's not sure. And then all of a sudden, something comes out of the shadow, and it turns out it's the real Headless Horseman, and he chases them down. He even traumatizes Brad a little bit, which that was delicious. That was delightful. And they realize that the man that they met in the woods before was Ichabod Crane, and they told him how to get the Bridge of Souls. So now they've changed the story, and now the Headless Horseman is after them. And so one of them has to get the pumpkin head, and cross the Bridge of Souls. So this is not really a groundbreaking story. It was, like I said before, that it was already adapted as a child audience. And I don't know when Sleepy Hollow came out. Sleepy Hollow, the movie by Tim Burton, and then years later in the early 2000s, there was another contemporary version of the story, but it was a more adult scary, older teenagers, while this one was more junior high scary, where it was kind of creepy. They probably used some practical special effects, because there wasn't that many. I mean, there was very little. You have, the Headless Horseman was probably a special effect. All the sounds, and, the guy with the, obviously a real person with makeup on. There's a little bit of bluish tint to the air around them, so it seems all foggy and stuff. But not a lot of special effects. But this one, just like I said, is just a junior high version. They didn't really do anything special. It's just a version that preteens could watch, and maybe teenagers would enjoy it too. The other one from the early 2000s, a little more adult, and has, of course, some implied sex scenes, but more of a you can barely see it, more of you don't see much. And although it's been a while since I've seen it, but I think it was at least PG-13. So, and then that version also had our protagonist actually be the ancestor of Ichabod Crane. Now, I want to say he also had the name Ian. Which, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of I names, and they couldn't call him Ichabod, so it's no surprise that they both may have been called Ian in both versions. And of course, the other one is not just a kid's version of it, a kid like a preteen friendly version, junior high version, but also you only get 30 minutes, maybe even less than that, because you have the brief scene in the beginning with the midnight sight, and then you have the credits and the end, a little bit of an ending scene. So the tales themselves are probably a lot shorter than we think. But I remember, like I said, that in the 2000s movie that I want to say was a made-for-TV movie, our protagonist was the direct descendant of Ichabod. So, which I thought that was a really cool version of the story, like kind of, and there's a whole curse I think involved, and so I thought that whole idea for that version was really cool. But anyway, so this one, it was decently acted. I mean, it's still these kids. They're still not. Some of them could potentially be a little over the top actors and performances, and I mean, Ian was okay. Like no really groundbreaking performances either. It was just. But I mean, this is for kids. This is the preteen version of the whole Twilight Zone. And these kids are probably still new to the acting. We're trying to perfect their craft at the time. So, and it wasn't anything, like I said, special. But I do like, this one also did what the other versions of Sleepy Hollow story, which is that the Ichabod character is made to be a lot more likable, because in the original short story, he's kind of pompous, doesn't really care what Katrina wants. He's just like, I like you, you're pretty, so I'm going to try to steal you from the other guy. And who knows, maybe she genuinely preferred the other guy. Abraham. Maybe she prefers that type of guy. And, a lot of women more pressure to probably marry the Abraham and Gaston type guys. Because it was a lot easier. And, while Ian genuinely, he's very respectful to her, very kind to her, doesn't pressure her to, he doesn't have that whole, because I feel like Ichabod could potentially be that kind of the nice guy who's like, I'm nice, I'm better than all those other guys, so I deserve you. It's not, I feel like, that's what I get, the vibes I get with Ichabod in the original story. I mean, now that TV series called Sleepy Hollow, Ichabod, that's another example of a more likable Ichabod, and I feel like he doesn't give me that mentality. He's a little bit arrogant, that version, but not to the point of it too annoying, too irritable. But in this one, he's just a regular guy. He's a little goofy, maybe tries a little too hard to, impress people, and is a little bit, he's brave. Like, I feel like his actions can be seen as a mixture of brave and dumb at the same time, because it's like, it's a good thing that he's trying to defend this girl's honor and be there for her. But sometimes it's like, I could see why other people would be like, just leave it alone. This guy can beat the shit out of you if you're not careful, so just leave them alone. Don't get in between them. And there's a lot of that, that whole back and forth heroic. So he wants to be the hero because, I'm the guy, I must protect the girl. But then the girl ends up, is like, nope, I'm not gonna let you get away with that, because, and so what else can I say about this episode? Let's see. It's a fun one, and like I said, I have a soft spot for this particular story, this particular ghost story. And it's an American classic. So and let's see. said, I have fun. It's a fun, so it's a kind of a fun take on the story. Like I said, the characters are a little more likable, but it's not anything new. But it's still, still nice to see, it's a classic, and it's easily, and it follows the story it follows the plot of the original story. Well, mostly, the ending is a little different, but I think most adaptations change the ending anyway. Because the ending is a little bit, kind of, a letdown a little bit for me personally, you know? And I feel like it's another one of those stories where it's like, is there actually a ghost or isn't there? And I'm always there. I want a ghost. I hope there's an actual ghost. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Tale of the Midnight Ride. And then next we have the third. I think it's the third story that Tucker told. Like I said, I think the second one was the phone police one. So I think the third one was the Tale of the Mummy's Curse. This one was another fun one. So in this particular one, like I said, Tucker is the narrator, and it starts out once again him and Gary are, Gary is chasing him because he borrowed Gary's ankh. And so Sam kind of has to get between them and prevent them from beating the crap out of each other. And he ends up, and Gary does let him borrow the ankh because it means he can use it as a prop for his story. And I'm sure, going by the title, you can guess that it's an Egyptian-inspired story. So we have, we start where there is a coffin, or sarcophagus, I should say, buried in the walls of this local museum. And the next day they call one of we are with this man and his kids, Cleo and Josh, and they are getting ready to go on vacation. But he gets a phone call, and it's his boss, Dr. Cablesmith, which I think that I love that name. So to me, that name is so British, Cablesmith. And he is told about the mummy they discovered, who is the corpse of Mina the Guardian, who is vindictive and malevolent. She can turn her victims into stone. She can make you immortal. She can do all these really cool things. And of course, this means that their father cancels their ski vacation, and Josh and Cleo once again are forced to help them, help their dad do his research, give him food so he doesn't ignore eating. And Josh is the one who's the most upset. Cleo has accepted the situation. And then they learn all about Mina and what she can do, what she's capable of. And they also learn that there's an elixir, there is a ring of eternity and elixir of life that she has. So they are, that night at home, they are told that their dad asked them to return to the museum to collect some pictures for him that he left there. And they head back together. And, Josh is complaining how they're always dunked on, that their dad always ditches them for work. He's a workaholic. And Josh ends up discovering the elixir hidden in a hidden compartment in the sarcophagus. And they're both all excited because, they kind of find they're both excited. They can show this to their dad, or at least Cleo is. And, Josh says, oh, we can get rich from this. So, but while they're fighting over who gets to hold it and present it to their dad, they knock the bottle over and a little bit spills out. And you notice that the mummy's hand gets a little bit of the elixir on its hand. So they start heading back. They leave the office and realize that they forgot the picture, so they head back. And when they head back, the mummy has disappeared. It's not there anymore, which sets off some alarm bells. It's a little creepy. And Josh is panicking, so they decide to head home and warn their dad. And they find out their house is ransacked, and their dad has left a note saying he's gone back to the office. So they figure, oh, he must be there, and everything's. We'll ask him what happened. And they get there, but they can't find their dad. And they also start feeling like they are being followed. Someone is chasing them, so they start hiding in. They try to find a place to hide in the museum, and then they end up going to the storage area, a big storage room where they find their dad is unconscious on some crates. And they end up waking him up, and he's trying to tell him in a panic what's going on, but just as they're about to tell their dad that the mummy has arrived, someone is coming. They can hear footsteps, and they think it's the mummy, but surprise, it's actually Dr. Cablesmith. And it turns out he wants to be immortal. He believes in Mina's powers, and he tells them he's doused kerosene all over the crates, and he has a torch, so if they don't give it to him, he will drop the torch and the place will catch fire. So, Cleo decides to go ahead and give him the ring, and even convinces him to try it on to see if it worked. And it does, and he's surrounded by a glow, and he's all like, you are gazing at an immortal, and he's so triumphant. But then all of a sudden, he gets a funny feeling, and you slowly see him turn to stone. And the mummy shows up, and Cleo reveals that she figured things, and all of a sudden the mummy shows up and is reaching around the corner, and Josh realizes that, wait a second, and gives the mummy the ring, and she becomes a living, breathing human being once again, not just a rotting corpse. And they figure out, and they reveal that they had figured out that the ring brings eternity, the ring brings eternity, and the elixir brings life. And Dr. Cablesmith, of course, knew they had the ring, but he didn't know about the elixir. So this one was actually kind of fun. You kind of, it's, and it wasn't just wacky shenanigans of being chased by some corpse like the other, like a Scooby-Doo episode. It was actually, but one thing it does have in common with Scooby-Doo is you think it's the monster, it's the monster that's chasing after them, but actually the monster turns to be one of the human characters who's greedy and selfish. So I thought that was kind of I think if it had been your first time watching the episode, that would be a cool twist. Of course, if you're watching these reviews, I'm assuming that it's not your first time watching it, and if it is, I'm sorry, but I'm not, for spoiling these episodes for you, but, so it was kind of, it's kind of funny how it ends up, you think that the mummy is going to be a threat, but then surprise, next thing it's the living, breathing human man, and then the mummy shows up, and actually the mummy turns to be harmless. And she turns to be this beautiful woman. And it's implied that maybe she could have a relationship with the dad. That she and the dad could be together, because he's immediately smitten and taken with her. And Josh makes this snarky this funny comment about, I wonder if she likes to ski. So it was kind of a cute ending, that a potential, love interest for dad, and they could get a new mom. I also really liked the actor who played Josh's performance. I don't know his name, but I only know him from one other thing on Nickelodeon. He was on the show Salute Your Shorts. And I don't remember, it's been a long time since I watched that show. The only reason I remember, of course, is because, I watch YouTube videos where they talk about the history of these shows from back in the day. And, so I think the characters are probably very similar. But I don't know, it's just, the kids, Cleo and Josh, the actors who played them, felt more authentic, more realistic, a lot more realistic kids, more genuine and little, and some of Josh's reactions were so funny. His reactions to when they get to the office and he's, just talking about, no, I'll say that I found it and I'll get all the credit. But then he looks over and just his expression is so funny, and just his reaction is like, Cleo? Cleo? And she, just the realization that the mummy is not there and is up walking around somewhere is just, I don't know why, but I love that moment. And I love, watching it, because sometimes I'm doing other stuff while I'm watching, while I have that playing on the background, but I always have to look up and watch that moment because it's just so funny. Just seeing his reaction, his expressions he makes are so funny and so hilarious, and just, and like I said, he feels so realistic, just so authentic. Like, there are a lot of the kids' characters in these episodes are just over the top performances, and just they don't feel authentic. They don't feel like real, real kids. There's not a lot of kid performances back in the 90s and that felt even the 80s probably, that felt real and relatable, and like they didn't just feel like just performances. Like in this episode, Cleo and Josh it didn't feel like a performance. It felt like an actual, like, a brother and sister, and their reactions felt actually, realistic. Now, the actress who played Cleo is in another episode. The Tale of the Fire Ghost was just another Tucker episode. And again, just like the Phone Police, I don't really care for that one as much as these two. And I also like I am curious though if the actress who played the when she becomes alive again, I wonder if the actual actress was Egyptian. I would have to look at her. I have to watch it again and look, because or at least look it up. I mean, she was a really pretty actress. That played the when the corpse becomes alive again. I also like that it was about an Egyptian curse and everything. I mean, I thought that was a really cool concept. Instead of just a ghost story, we deal with a mummy. Like, I feel like there's not enough stories, Although I guess if there are too many stories about mummies, then it would make the ones that do already exist not stand out as much. If there were too many stories about mummies and stuff, and I know there's those old horror films, but it was kind of a nice new story, a new type of story where we're dealing with a different culture, and we're dealing with like I said, a mummy essentially, instead of a just a ghost story or something. So yeah, that one was fun too. So other than that, those are the only two. Although I think the Forever Game, his first episode when the show was brought back in the early 2000s, where he's the leader of the group, I thought that one was a cool one too. I thought that concept was kind of cool too. Not my favorite, but the idea of the the creepy woods and the game and stuff, and all the different things that would happen to the kid and the sister and the friend in that episode. And again, I always have a soft spot for sibling stories, where the siblings are the focus of the story. But anyway, so other than that, those the Tucker episodes, just there was only those ones. There's 3 that I really liked. Okay, so I don't know when I'll do another one, but if you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, click the bell notification below, and to see if you want to see when I post new videos. And I hope you are enjoying your reading, staying safe and happy and healthy, and I will talk to you all later. Alright, bye!